Hi, my name is Dr. Stephen Stokes, and welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about magnesium. If you're not taking magnesium, at the end of this video, you are going to take magnesium. And if you're taking magnesium, at the end of this video, you're going to want to take a plant-based source of magnesium. And I really want to tell the story of magnesium because it doesn't get a lot of attention, right? Magnesium is not the exotic herb that people like to talk about. It's just it's inexpensive, it's readily available. It doesn't get the attention it deserves. And yet, we have studies that say that 48% of the American population has a magnesium deficiency. It's insane. And I can tell you that it's much higher than that. I can tell you that if we take a population base that is ill, a population base that is going to see a doctor because they're not feeling well, then that number is more like 90% of those patients are going to be deficient in magnesium. It's a health crisis. It is a hidden health crisis that nobody's talking about, and it is easy to fix. And I don't understand why more people are not having this conversation about magnesium. Why is it, you ask, that more than 50% of the population is deficient in magnesium? The answers are not surprising, right? First and foremost, poor diet. People are eating foods that are not nutritionally balanced, that do not have the magnesium in them that they used to have. The quality of the soil has gone way down. Farmers are not rotating crops anymore, right? They're over-fertilizing, and a lot of these fertilizers have potassium, and potassium is the antagonist to magnesium. So when you over-fertilize, the plants cannot uptake the magnesium. Then when we eat the plants, we don't get the nutrition that we need. This is a huge problem, soil depletion. And also, people are eating and drinking stuff that's not good for them. So we're doing a lot of alcohol, coffees, teas, carbonated beverages. These are all major factors that reduce the availability of magnesium in our diets. And also, because of other problems like autoimmune diseases, we are seeing an increase in small intestine diseases. And the small intestine is where magnesium is utilized. And so if you have something like Crohn's disease, right, then you're having a situation where the small intestine is not doing its job like it should, and you could have a problem with absorption of magnesium. So all these factors come into play and create a number that says that 1 out of every 2 Americans is deficient in magnesium. And remember what I said, right? That's based on a general population. If we just take people that are sick, it's more like 90%. Now, how do we test for magnesium deficiency? Because most of the magnesium we have, it's in the cells and in the bones of the body. It's not in the blood. But we do these blood tests. They come back, everything's okay. It's not an effective way to test for magnesium. I don't even test for it anymore because it's so unreliable. What I do is I look at the symptoms, right? Look at the symptoms, and if those symptoms align with the patient, I automatically will assume, that they're in that 90 percentile, and I'll just get them to start taking magnesium. And it's not expensive, it's not toxic, and if I'm wrong, and sometimes I am, then there's no harm done, right? But a lot of the times, those patients will report a decrease in those symptoms within the first 10 days. It's a pretty good sign that they're magnesium deficient, right? Now, one of the big factors when we talk about magnesium in the body is, again, how do we determine whether or not we have a deficiency? I want to explain to you the common symptoms of magnesium so that you can use this as a guideline. And by the way, there is a very common element to this, and that is going to be stress. Symptoms of magnesium deficiency: tremors, muscle twitching, fatigue, irritability, depression, anxiety. Starting to sound familiar, right? All of these things are very similar to what we would say are the symptoms of stress. And there's a reason for that. And it's because what magnesium does in the body is it helps us regulate the glutamate transmission, and it inhibits glutamate transmission, and it helps with the uptake of GABA, right? It balances out the system, creates that nice, relaxed parasympathetic tone in the body. When your magnesium is off, you can't regulate that axis. And so what happens is that even even things that are normal stimulants in your environment that shouldn't cause major events, they freak you out. They cause you stress because your system is not regulating the stimulation properly. It's a big problem. I mean, it is one of the number one problems with anxiety. If somebody has a low tolerance to stimulation, I get them taking magnesium to balance out their magnesium levels, and all of a sudden they can handle life, right? And it changes their life. So it's a big deal, and it's not something to just brush away. Now, what about what to take, right? I mentioned if you're taking magnesium, you want to really look at a plant source, and there's a reason for that. When we take magnesium, and by the way, I have some samples here of magnesium that I have laying around. You're probably familiar with these. There's a Natural Vitality Calm, right? It's a magnesium powder. I have, here's one. I have a chelated magnesium, right? This is my magnesium glycinate. These things are readily available. They're not expensive. People take them. And these forms of magnesium will be used by the body. But the problem is we want to get the magnesium into the brain. And to get into the brain, we have to cross the blood-brain barrier, right? This is the issue. And we've got these cells that protect things going to the brain called astrocytes. They're like the guardians for the brain. They don't like things going into the brain that can hurt the brain. And these different types of compounds, which are magnesium ions, it's magnesium that is coupled with other things like magnesium citrate, for example. These things don't get across the blood-brain barrier very good, right? And if we eat a natural source of magnesium, specifically, I'm recommending Swiss chard and buckwheat. If we eat those foods, well, those foods go across the blood-brain barrier and can be utilized by the brain. So we can get the magnesium where we need to get it into the central nervous system. The central nervous system, right? The brain, that regulates everything. That's where we need to get the magnesium, not just into the muscles, right? We need to get it into the brain. When you eat a whole food source like Easy Mag, which I'm recommending, when we take this whole food source, then this is encased in natural cofactors. So we're getting, for example, B6, we're getting manganese, zinc, we're getting fiber, prebiotics. We're getting all these cofactors that help bring the magnesium where it needs to go, into the brain. And because it's basically food, right? Because the food has to be digested first, it slows down the uptake. And that allows a slow release of the magnesium up into the brain. And that is not considered as big of a threat as if we take magnesium citrate, for example, where we take a big dose of magnesium, goes into the system, and those astrocytes, they freak out. They just prevent it, right? They prevent it from getting into where we need it, which is into the brain. Also, something that should make sense to you is what I like to call photonic resonance. When you think about a food product, such as Swiss chard and buckwheat, this is a whole food concentrate. This is a whole food source. It doesn't just have one form of magnesium. It is a well-rounded source of magnesium. It contains many forms of magnesium in a food source. It has that photonic resonance, which is going to be encoded, right, with biological purpose. Your body is going to look at that as a living frequency, and it's going to welcome that into the system, versus if you just take a ton of magnesium citrate powder, you're going to miss all of that. And it's going to be treated more as a foreigner, right? As an outsider, which is just not going to work out for us. So again, what I recommend is Easy Mag. It's a great source of natural magnesium in my body. You will see an improvement almost on the first night. If you're somebody who has trouble relaxing to go to sleep at night, take these before bed. Take these like an hour before bed. You will see an immediate change in how your body responds. If your body is deficient in magnesium and you give it this natural food source of magnesium, it just absorbs it like a sponge, right? And you'll see a difference. I hope this video was useful for you. I hope you will consider adding magnesium to your regimen, and I hope you will specifically consider taking the product I'm recommending, which is Easy Mag. You can get it from the link in the description of the video. You can get it from my website. You can buy it directly from Standard Process with no middle person, and it helps support the channel. Hope this was useful. Reach out to me through my website if you have any other questions. Give a thumbs up, subscribe. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.